Hi everyone, it's Anne. Welcome to my channel, Annie's Abstract Art, where I do just that. I had so much fun doing this piece. I've dubbed it Farmhouse Style 3D Organic Collage because it has all of those elements. It was so easy to do. I can't wait to show you how I did it. The video will start now. Enjoy. So here I'm starting with a plain sheet of copy paper, and with black acrylic I am just laying down a few lines, and then I'm going to add mixed media such as oil pastel sticks in 3 colors: white, gray, and brown. And I'm leaving maybe half of the copy paper untouched because what I'm going to do is add sepia acrylic ink, and what that's going to do when it hits the copy paper, it's going to really soak it up, and it's going to be super saturated in color. And then the best part is when you see the white oil pastel coming through, because it's a resist and you'll see those white lines. When it hits the gray and it hits the brown, it's really not going to do anything special, but the impact is probably the most visible with the white. So right here, I'm just adding the white oil pastel. I'm being very generous because I want those white lines to show up. And then I'm gonna just maybe touch a few spots with the brown and the gray just to see what would happen. I wasn't even sure if it was going to make a difference. It really didn't in the end. The most impactful areas is the resist with the white oil pastel and the untouched white copy paper, because it really drinks up the sepia. You'll see when I add the acrylic ink. So now I have the black, I have the white, this is the gray. You could see those 2 spots of brown. If it doesn't change the color necessarily with the brown, my goal was to at least get some textures, because even though, well, I should say regardless of the color, it still resists. The white is definitely going to show up more when it resists, but the brown is also oil, and so is the gray, so it's going to resist as well. So I just broke out my foam roller, and this is the sepia acrylic ink. So first I started and I saw that it wasn't really moving, so I spritzed some water to get the sepia moving, and you can see everything is coming together. It's starting to become a little bit more cohesive. And what was amazing is not only do you see the white resist, but unless it's my imagination, I feel like the black became even darker. And so you'll see when I add this to the canvas, you really can't see it in the end, maybe a little bit. But what I'm going to do once this is dry is I'm going to crumple it, because I want more texture. Because what I'm going to do is a 2-sided collage sheet. I'm going to turn it over, and you're going to see all of the different nooks and crannies from the wrinkles. And when I hit it with the sepia, again, it's going to hit some areas and leave some areas untouched, the white copy paper. And it's going to actually take on the look of old leather. So here I'm being very careful not to tear the sheet. Sometimes I want it to be torn and deteriorated and for other reasons, but here I wanted everything to stay in one piece. So now I'm going to add the sepia and use the foam roller again, and I didn't add water this time, but there is some water on the foam roller from before. And you could see all of the nooks and crannies are down deep below are staying white. So you get those veins, you get those lines. And as I mentioned before, it almost looks like old leather. And I love that look. So I'm just rubbing it in, adding a few darker areas with extra sepia. And then I dry it. And now I have a two-sided collage sheet. And with the excess sepia on the foam roller, I'm adding it to the front side just to get more depth. And look at how that white oil pastel stick resisted the ink. And again, when I add it to the canvas, it ultimately doesn't really show up too much, but just a little bit, and every little bit counts. So this is gesso. I'm adding it to a sheet of 6x6 watercolor paper, and I'm just adding some brown and some black, different shades of brown. And now that the canvas is ready, you're really not going to see too much of the canvas in the end. Tearing the collage sheet in half and breaking out some of my existing collage paper that I have in my stash, and I'm rolling the collage paper down from the corner to get more of a 3D look. And it fits perfectly on the canvas. I did not plan that, so that was pretty cool. So now that I have the collage paper that we just made together, I'm adding my existing collage paper to the canvas, starting to layer it. So this is tissue paper. I just want to get different, not only colors, but different materials. So it's mostly paper, but you have the tissue paper, and then you'll see later I add a little bit of tape. So instead of gluing it down, I'm stapling it just to keep things a little drier. And then I'll add a little bit of hot glue to keep that folded area down. So I'm tearing some of the tissue paper so that it doesn't look too boxy. And I think it's starting to look really great right here. So a little bit of hot glue to keep the fold down. And now I'm adding a little bit of diluted cream acrylic, just a few circular lines, a little bit of a design. I'm going to keep it as is, let it dry naturally. I'm not going to brush it or add anything else to it. So I wanted to add some white, or the cream in this case, to the brown just to brighten the overall design. And so this is more of my collage papers, just kind of seeing like what colors would go well. So that's like, has some brown in it, has some gray in it. And so now we have 1, 2, 3, 4 layers. And this is another piece from my stash. And I will at some point do a video showing you how I make my collage papers. So I'm slipping that under the fold, and then I'm going to just trim it a little bit so it fits better. And I think things are looking really great right here. So this is sheetrock tape, and it's like a mesh, and it's actually sticky on the underside. So it complements everything. So you have the tissue paper and the tape in addition to the different collage papers. So this is twine, and it comes off the roll very curly. So to break down those fibers, I'm spritzing it with some water. And then you'll see what I do. I shred the twine, and that starts to take on that farmhouse look, very organic, instead of just rope on the canvas. But the tricky thing is affixing the shredded twine on the canvas. So what I decided to do, instead of gluing it or stapling it, I decided to stitch it with needle and thread. And I even went completely over the edges, like I kind of looped it. That was a happy mistake, but I like the way that looks. Just a few stitches here and there just to secure it. And now I'm just adding some marks, if you will, with the diluted cream acrylic, being mindful not to get too crazy because I already have those lines that I added before. Less is more. But I just want to add a few dots just to keep the eye moving around the canvas. And I was touching up this area right here just to brighten it. And just a drip. But then I end up smearing it, smudging it with my finger on purpose. I'm just cleaning things up here, trimming the edges. And I don't want it to look like rope, so I'm just making sure that it looks really shredded. I love the way that looks, very organic. And now I'm looking to see how it would look framed. So this is the mat, and then I secure it into the frame. And then for that extra 3D look, I pulled some of the twine out in front of the mat, and it is done. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed it half as much as I did. If you have any questions about my process or materials, leave a comment below. I would love to hear from you. And if you're new to my channel and you haven't subscribed yet, I hope you will, because I upload regularly. Until the next video, take care. I'll see you soon.